Okay, so there's my strip that I'm going to put underneath. I flip this around. That's the finished plywood. And we got to think about this for a minute. Let's imagine that that piece is already underneath there, okay? But we're going to walk inside. We're going to take a look at this first because we might have to do something slightly different than just putting that down. I mean, you could always fix it later and cut it out and all that. But see, okay, here's the bed frame. And I know the 4x8 portion, the 48-inch portion is going to be from here because Mother gets in and out of the bed over here. Less weight is going to be over there by that joint. That joint's still going to be solid enough even if you had to have it on this side. But let's think about this for a minute. We've got that top rail. See that top rail? And we've got a bottom rail. And the joint is going to be over here. So if that white piece of wood was directly underneath that plywood, do you see what's going to happen? It's going to hit. It's going to hit the metal frame on this side and on that side. So I'm going to have to take some measurements per se. And so I know the plywood's going to fit right up tight there. And so I know the metal is about 3 1/4. So if I start that plywood piece underneath 3 1/2 inches from this edge down, I know it's going to miss that and it's going to fit right there, right? And so I'm going to have to measure that over there, and then I'm going to have to take another measure. So this light's not very good in here. I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm going to have to take a couple measurements. That one, and then I'll have to take another measurement from here and how thick that is. I could decide not to put that little piece of scrap material underneath at the end from this edge down, or if I want to put that, I've got to measure. If I don't want to put it, then I measure from there down to here and stop it before this end and start it before that one. You see what I mean? So I got to take a few measurements. Just goes to show you got to kind of measure stuff. Take into consideration, I mean, worst case scenario, had you had that on there, then you'd have to measure and chop it out on the backside with your skill saw set at 3/4 of an inch, zip, 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 and away you go. You know what I mean? And on top of that, when I cut that piece of plywood, remember? I cut this piece of plywood, and I knew the piece was pretty straight because whoever cut it initially cut it with a table saw. And so my straight edge for my hand wasn't as straight as the other side. So I looked at that, made a determination that my skill saw edge was this edge here. I see a slight little whoop-de-doo from here over, not very much, not enough to matter in anything. So instead of having my cut up there, I flipped it around to have the cut on the outside. Okay, so my joint is fitting tighter than it would have. Okay, and then I have to visualize this because as it's going to set on the bed, Mother's going to get in on that side, not this side. This is going to be the edge. So if I really wanted to, I could take the plywood and flip it around, or I could to make it easier on myself or on yourself, we could take this. We can take this, put it over here, like that. Straight edge there, skill saw cut there. This is going to be over here, right in there, okay? If that makes it easier for you to look at, so you don't have to look at sideways, because that's going to be underneath, okay? So now, does that look better? Mother's going to get in on this side. This is the front of the bed. That's the back of the bed. So now you can visualize a little bit better. And I know on this edge was 3 1/2 inches, remember? 3 1/2 inches. And then this board is going to start 3 1/2 inches short of this edge. Okay? And then that'll miss that top rail. Then I have to measure from there down and figure out the bottom. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now, and measure that and get ready step by step. See, just do little steps. You're not in a big old rush. If you if you had allotted yourself 1 hour to do this and you promised somebody, yeah, I'll be done before lunch, come on, it's only going to take me an hour, and then you're trying to rush, okay, now you're going to start screwing yourself up. You may have an accident, you may not use the skill saw properly, you might have this all messed up and you didn't measure twice, and before you cut once, you measured once, and then you cut once, and then you found out you cut on the wrong measurement, this, that, and the other thing. Make sure all I'm saying is make sure whatever type of project you got going on, make sure you allow yourself enough time. If it starts going a little bit longer than you were expecting, don't worry about it. Don't stress. Take a break. Go eat lunch. Go eat dinner. Take a break. Come out here. Turn your lights on in the garage. Step by step. And just methodically get her done. Okay, I measured that 59.5 to 62.5. That's from the very end, not the mark that I did. 59.5 to 62.5. And that'll be where the metal bracket, flat bracket was going across, and there's another little bracket. So then that tells me I've got a little bit, I got like 11 inches of seam with nothing there. Do I want to put something there or not? That's what you have to decide. I'm going to decide to go ahead and put something there. Okay? And so that's what I'm going to do. So now what I have to do is I have to measure between these lines to get my pieces, okay? I can put my lock on my tape. I can measure that. 56, so I'll make it 55 and 7/8. I can write on here 55 and 7/8. Okay, and then I can measure this last little bit, 11 1/4. So I'm going to make it 11 1/8. And two pieces I'm going to cut, 55 and 7/8, 11 and 7/8. 11 1/8. 11 1/8 goes there, 55 and 7/8 goes there, underneath that seam. You see what I mean? Okay? Alright, I'm going to cut those off now. Now I'm going to try to do this so that you can see what I'm doing and certain things, my thought process. Okay, got my skill saw set up. And on this piece, I had a big boo-boo on the end of it. See right there? Well, I'm not gonna cut on that side. I'm gonna measure from the side. 55 and 7/8. Was it? All right. I'll flip this around. 55 and 7/8. Let's see here. 55 and 7/8. And because I don't have a square, I'm just going to put my tape measure on the middle and put a line on both sides. And that's short enough, that's straight enough, okay? 55 and 7/8, and I put on my foot and keep my foot out of the way and cut it off. Okay. My other piece is 11 1/8. I take it off of the cut. 11 1/8 and 11 1/8. Flip it around. I always try to cut the last little bit off to the side. That way my finished piece is over here. It's nice and easy to see my pencil marks when I get ready to cut with the skill saw. Okay? I'm right-handed, so I always, this little piece, I always set up to cut off that way, and I can see my finished line. Okay, that's my throwaway piece. Now, I had the blade set, so it's only cutting through there about 1/8 of an inch beyond that. Had I cut a little piece like that without this fence, having it adjusted, if I had this fence all the way pulled up, like cutting a 2x4, never do you want to do something like that when you're cutting plywood and stuff, because as you're cutting through, it could hit something, and then it could actually, the blade could come backwards, and it could come right up, and as you're sitting there, it could come right up like this, and it could rip your pants and your thigh right here. I've seen it done before, okay? Not on me, but the first time I used a skill saw, I was trying to cut a long 2x6 piece of redwood, and I was right in the middle, and I didn't know how to do it, and the saw blade came up, and it came up this way, and it hit something, and it went ding, and the saw kind of went out of my hand like that. And at the time I had a keychain, it was metal, it braided metal, and it hit that metal and flung the blade off my pants. Oh man, that could have sunk right into my inner thigh. Oh, first time I used a skill saw, okay? So if you didn't learn anything else, make sure you've got the blade set and you'll be good to go, okay? Okay, so now I want to put this underneath there, right? And I want to line it up with that and stuff. And if I had it centered, I don't have to have it perfect, mind you. It can be slightly off, but the center of this is 3 1/4, so that's 1 5/8 is the center. Okay. So 1 5/8 is the center. So off of this edge, 1 5/8, like that. That's going to be there. So I can measure off the edge like short 3 inches. Follow me? So I can be 3 inches, because I've got to lift this up now and slip that under there. 3 inches off that edge. Yeah, okay. In fact, maybe instead of doing that, I can just do this one piece, right? I just do this one piece. And it was 1 5/8, and it's right there, and 1 5/8. You see what I mean? And then I can just screw that down. I don't have to hold that whole thing up, and I've got my line. I've got my line here, and I cut it just a hair short, like I wanted. Get my hammer out. Okay. And I'll make this 1 5/8. And 1 5/8. Learning anything yet? Hope so. Okay, now I'm going to screw that down. And shall I keep the camera going? I'm gonna try something with the drill. I'm going to see how well I can sink it in without pre-drilling it or anything like that. Using this. And I've got my screws here. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens to this thing. Okay. Are you with me so far? Do you see what I'm doing here? I think you see. Okay. Got my knee pad down. You know what? I think that's fine. I don't think I have to pre-drill it like I was thinking. Okay? So, 1 5/8 is close enough. Just shy of it. Okay? Now I'm just going to screw this edge off. Is it kind of sinking in what I'm doing here? Hope so. And when I think it's flush, I have to do it a little bit more because a lot of times the screw, when it goes into MDF, it will separate between the MDF and the plywood just ever so shortly, and then you give it one more zip and it sucks the MDF up to the bottom of the plywood. It almost looks like I know what I'm doing, huh? Almost. And if I can do it, of course you can do it. Okay? Now I got my other piece here. I've got the mark where the metal's gonna go. I can put that in there. And this time I'm just flushing it up to the end. And it's right where I need to be. So I know, and I got a mark. This was the one I put a mark on, so I know it's right there. Okay, the center of it. 1 5/8 there. And I'll measure that right like that. One more. Okay. There. Now I can put my strip there, right? Like that. And I'm going to screw that in. I'm going to follow the same pattern as my other screws. Pretty much. Okay. I don't really need my tape measure per se. I got my cut, my skill saw cut on the outside. I'm feeling the ends. This was slightly short, so I want to make sure it doesn't stick over on either end. Okay, and screw it in. Okay, and I'll push this one in tight at the bottom, if I can, like that. Yeah, the gardeners are still here, of course. Hopefully that doesn't deter you from learning. This sinks right on in. It's fine. It's working fine. I'm glad. Okay. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Okay, so now we got that. See how I did that? And now I've got to decide on that plywood, is there anything else that you might think of that you might possibly want to do on this plywood? If you look at the box, you see that it's got a rounded edge. Kind of doesn't go pointy. I mean, I could leave the point, but the mattress has a rounded edge. This thing's got rounded edges. And so what I could do, I'm not gonna make them round per se, but I could figure out how much of a 3/4, how much of a 45-degree angle maybe I'll cut it on. And then I can take a rasp and rasp it just for the heck of it. Just because I can, right? Okay, so let's just kind of figure it out. Maybe about maybe like that. And if it was about like that, to make a 45, if I measure over here, that's 7/8, and then measure 7/8 this way, and we connect the two lines, that makes a 45. Do you know that? Okay, so I'm gonna, each one of the corners, I'm gonna measure over 7/8 and 7/8. And I'll do that, and I'll cut that off with my skill saw. And then I got a little wood rasp here. That's something I always use a metal rasp like this. I've had this one for quite a while. Flat. This is rough. This is a little bit smoother. You can use this for metal, for wood. And then this side's concave, see? And smooth, rough. I use this thing all the time. And so I'll just use that to rasp on the edges. 3/4 by 3/4, or 7/8 by 7/8, right? 7/8 by 7/8. And I'm just using my putty knife for a straight edge. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that on the other two, and I'll get ready to cut those off.